All right. Hello, hello, hello.
Turn that Hummer up. We can't hear him.
I know. Hello? Hello? Hello, hello?
All right.
Hello? Hello? Whatever. Okay, I'll talk into it anyway. People that are online, hopefully. Hello, online people. There's not as many in here, so I'm hoping there's a lot watching online doing it. If you're online, don't forget, we like you still doing sermon maps. We like you still doing things and being involved in printing the things off. So, better be doing that because God is watching. He's a nice God sometimes. Just kind of depends. So, it's already, what's the date today? 20th. We only have, if I look at my thing, we have today, and then we only have 1, 2, 3 more confirmation times before we start Lent. So sad. I know. Which means Lent, we don't do workshops like this, but we encourage you all to be a part of the 6:30 worship service during Lent. Super important to do that. Still doing your sermon map, still doing all that important stuff, and participating in life of the church, okay? But 3 more times for workshops. You did have the latest thing last week. You had the sermon map count. If you're a little concerned about that, definitely do some sermon maps during Lent or whatever, okay? So be doing that. You will not get an updated version until after Lent, so you know where we're at the last month and a half, okay? So if you need some, be working on those, all right? Other than that, I think we're pretty good. Your bins, small group leaders, you should have everything here. I think I redid the count for a few new people. You probably, when people don't come, have some extras. Just leave them in the bin, and I'll recycle those if you end up with extra worksheets, okay? But I think that's what I got. If you need anything, if you have any questions, small group concerns, please let me know, and we can go from there. But otherwise, thank you for being here. Thank you for wearing masks for the people that are doing that. That is awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's what I got.
Hey, thank you, Philip. Okay, remember how we do his thank you? Not applause, plural, but one applaud. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Throw money.
Let's try our applaud again. Let's practice that. And the count of, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Philip. Some leftovers from last week. Last week we started talking about the Christian faith, what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And I see some leftovers. This word is called separation. Do you know what that means? Like being away from, separated from, like distanced from. And our camera guy said, hey, can't stand still because I can't catch you. Brian, sorry, you got me. Separation. Do you remember what theological or God word we meant it describes separation? It's a 3-letter word. S-I-N. Sin. Sin is, we know what sin is. It's the bad stuff, the garbage in our life. And really what that does is it separates us from God. It separates. And then Jesus does something about that separation. As Christians, we understand that Jesus, you know what this word is? Can you see it? Rescuer. One who goes out. A rescuer does not stay where they're safe and just say, hey, if you're lost, come and find me. No, wait. No, what does a rescuer do? What? A rescuer does what? Goes. Oh, I forgot that I get used to wearing a mask. Sorry. So I'm not going to get too close to you. A rescuer actually goes out and seeks the one who's lost. That's what they do. I mean, we got a rescue team here in Watertown. Some of them are trained to dive. Like if somebody is lost in water, meaning they drowned, they go down there. Others in western South Dakota are trained to do tactical kinds of stuff with ropes and go and somebody's broken down on a ski mountain. or fell off a cliff, they go down to them. That's what a rescuer does. That's what Jesus does. And a Christian, then, is what you and I are, trusting that Jesus repairs, does away with the separation. Tonight, and Philip said that we've got 3 more sessions after tonight. And tonight and next week, we are going to talk about the sacrament of baptism. And then the next 2 times, the other sacrament. What's the other sacrament? What was it? Nope. What did we just experience up here? Holy Communion. So, as Christians, we practice baptism and Holy Communion, and I'm just going to write it like this. So we're going to have 2 sessions tonight and next week about baptism, and the following 2 weeks on Holy Communion. And so the memory verse, the Bible verse that I want us to kind of get into our heads tonight has to do with baptism. And in the Bible, Galatians chapter 3, verse 27 says, anyone who is baptized into Christ have put on Christ. Hear that again. Anyone who is baptized into Christ have what? Put on Christ. Have you guys put on anything yet today? Clothes, huh? You guys be willing to do this for me? Come on, I need like 3 guys to come forward. Okay, so we're going to act out this Bible verse. The Bible verse says, anyone who is baptized into Christ is what? Baptized into Jesus, you put on Christ. It's as if a garment. The same word in the Bible is used to putting on a garment. It's almost like the Bible says, go ahead. It's almost as if they're saying you're putting on a garment when you are baptized. Nice. You know, that one drags on the ground when I wear it. Okay, put it all the way around. I mean, zip it up, or I guess it doesn't have a zip, does it? Now, specifically, if these guys were really nasty, and if I let them, they would write things on that garment that reminds us about Jesus. So if we're putting on Christ, what do you think it is that we're putting on? Specifically. Listed. Faith? Absolutely. So we would be don't do it. Just write faith on there just with the cap left on. You're writing with the wrong hand. So that's what it would be. To be baptized into Christ is to put on Jesus. Faith. What's another word? What? Say it loud. I'm kind of deaf. Love. Put love on there. Yeah, put it on his back. What else would we be writing on there? Serving. Put serving on there. What else? What else? Forgiveness? Is that what you said? Absolutely. To be Jesus people means that we have forgiveness. Did you get that written on there? Sacrifice? Cross? So you're kind of getting it. What it means. All right, thank you. Do you want to wear that or do you want to take it off? Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to take it off or not. Thank you. You can just place it back up there. So the Bible memory verse tells us about baptism. Sure, thank you. Galatians chapter 3, verse 27 says, everyone who is baptized into Christ Jesus puts on Christ. Now you've seen somebody put on a garment. That's what it's like. Now, the word that I said this is, baptism is a what? What's this word? Sacrament. And so is this word here, HC, meaning Holy Communion. We in the Lutheran Christian, we practice two sacraments. And now to get to figure out what a sacrament is a sacrament is one of those religious acts in worship that does this. And those four letters are agog, meaning gifts of God's grace. It means that in baptism and in Holy Communion, we get God's grace in a new way. It's a gift. Do you know what a gift is? Do you earn a gift? No, it's given to you. Gift of God's grace. So God's grace is a gift, and that's what we receive in baptism and Holy Communion. Another way to help us remember what a sacrament is, it's this. Commanded by, who do you think the J stands for? Jesus. Commanded by Jesus. Like Jesus said, do this. Jesus said, go baptize. Therefore, Pastor Dan, Pastor Kent, whomever, baptize people and be baptized. And so, those two sacraments, baptism and Holy Communion, Jesus said, do this. Do this in remembrance of me. Did you catch that when I said that during the words of institution? Jesus said, take and eat my body. Take and drink my blood. You got to look at, oh yeah. PEA is initials for the third thing that makes a sacrament a sacrament. And it's a physical, I think it should be FEA, but my teacher said, no, it's PH. So physical element attached. So there's a physical element that has to do with baptism. What's the physical stuff of baptism? Water. Absolutely. And what is the physical stuff of communion? Wine and bread. So that's what makes in our understanding, in our Christian understanding of the sacraments of baptism and Holy Communion. GOG stands for what? Gift of God's grace. Pretty close. What is CBJ? Commanded by Jesus. And PEA? Physical element attached. It means it comes with a physical element. So we have the two sacraments, and I'm going to want to get a little bit more into what these are. Baptism, how many of you guys are baptized? Okay. When you guys were baptized, it's like, what is your birth date? When were you born? Let's just hear it. Yeah, November 22nd. I had a microphone so you could hear me a little bit better. So you have a date of your birth. That's your first birth. That's your physical birth. That's when your mom and your father celebrated your entry into the world. Yeah. Baptism is like a second birth. It's like a spiritual birth. It's like when you were born that day, you were born into a family, you were given a name, you were given love and nurturing now up until you're, like, I don't know how old you are now, you guys, 27, 28 years old? Yeah, something like that. That's your first birth. Your second birth is a spiritual birth into not the Hanson or the Nelson or the Johnson family, but into the family of God. And you were named. You have a name that's different than your name that you got at your first birth. Your baptism birth is child of God. It's like you were born into that family. And then, in your second birth, you were born into God's family. Now, if somebody really pushed me saying, Kent, what's more important, your first birth or your second birth? I'd say, I don't know. Because it's important that you're here. But if you're here, you need to have this spiritual second birth as well. And how this happens, being born into God's family. There's two images that I want to give to you. How many of you ever gone to a branding, like a cattle branding? How many of you have done that? Been to a cattle branding? Yeah. I mean, we lived West River for 18 years, and they sometimes invited the pastor out. And the real authentic brandings, the ranches, they had horses and they had the lariat thing, and the others, they just had four-wheelers and, get them in there and a table and rip them over. But a branding, they had not just ear tag kind of branding on the cattle, but a branding is there's a long steel rod with a particular brand or a marking there that is associated with the owner. And they put that in, it used to be in a charcoal fire, but now it's into, propane and those kinds of things. Gets that branding iron red hot, and you know what they do next? And you know what that calf does? Squeals, is noisy, and cries for a short time. What the branding does is it marks the owner of that calf. And that brand is with that calf, that cow, for its entire life. In some ways, that's the way baptism is. It doesn't kick and scream and a permanent mark on you, but it's like Jesus claims you with his mark. The sign of the cross. It doesn't hurt you, and you can't see it. But when you were baptized, there was a brand put on you. Mark that, put that mark on yourself, on your forehead, a cross. You are marked with the cross of Christ forever. Now, when you guys do your closing at confirmation, you make that sign of the cross around with people that are around you. Typically, before the virus thing, we dipped your finger in water and you put that wet finger in there to remind you that you were baptized. What are the words you say? You belong to Christ. We belong to each other. You belong to Christ. That's a baptism word. That's a baptism statement. When you're branded, you can't be unbranded. You can't be unbaptized either. So that's the first thing. Baptism is sort of like a branding. A second thing. Another image to kind of get our understanding of what happens to us when we're baptized is adoption. Do you guys know anyone who's adopted? Raise your hand if you do know someone. Yeah, absolutely. A person who's adopted was at one time outside the family. They didn't know them, but the act of adoption, the legal adoption, is that this family claims this child or this person or baby and brings them into the family. Nothing can change that. Nothing. And what motivates that family, those parents to adopt a child is their love And they want that child. And that's the way it is with God. God sees you, and he has got great love for you in spite of who we are. And God says, I want you. So baptism is how then we become a part of God's family. It's like you are no longer an outsider, but you now are God's child. So baptism has to do with like branding and have to do with adoption. Now, how old were you when you were baptized? Do you remember? Maybe you were a week old or 2 months old or 6 months old, something like that. In our Lutheran Christian understanding, we practice, it's called infant baptism. Infant baptism. And that means that we understand that babies are baptized. Probably about 95% of the baptisms that Pastor Dan and I do in this congregation are infants. I've baptized people that are 70-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 30-year-olds, teenagers. We've had a few confirmation kids that go through confirmation, never baptized, and so we baptize them. But we understand that you can be baptized as a baby. And you think that, I mean, you've seen your little brother was baptized. Remember that? You guys were baptized, what, a couple years ago?
Yep, 2.
What's that?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. So, you know, whether you're 10 or your baby brother was baptized, you remember your baptism, right?
Yes.
Yep. Do you think your baby brother does?
Probably not.
Nope. Doesn't remember what his breakfast was. Well, of course, neither do I. But the whole point about baptism is it's God's gift to us. You don't need to remember it. You don't need to deserve it. Don't need to anything it. God gives it. It's a gift. So there are certain Christians that do call like a believer's baptism. And they do baptisms like starting at age 10 or 12 and on up to an adult. And they understand, good Christian folks, they understand that you need to kind of like you do a baptism as a sign of your faith, as a sign of your growth in faith and desiring to become that new step in life. And maybe about a third of all Christians do believers' baptisms, but probably around 2/3 do infant baptisms. So infant baptisms are like Lutherans and Catholics and Methodists and Episcopalian and UCC and those folks. Believers' baptisms would be like adult baptisms. Adult. Got to get that word right. And they most of often they do like immersion baptisms. Have you ever seen somebody go into like a whole lake or into a river or into a big tub? That's the way some folks do that. We do just that small amount pouring on the head because we believe it's not the amount of water that matters, that it's God's mercy and love and Holy Spirit that matters. So that's what we're talking about today. There's a whole bunch of stuff about baptism. You guys will review that in your class. Just as a reminder, as many of you who were baptized into Christ, you put on Christ like a garment, covering you, not from head to toe. You didn't quite have the head thing, but almost the toe thing. Anyone who's baptized, you're into Christ, put on Christ. Keep that in mind. Let's get the 8th grade boys out of here first. Blessings to you. We'll be wandering around saying hi a little bit later on. And then let's do the 8th grade girls out of here. See you later, ladies. And then let's do the 7th grade ladies. Out of here, gals. What? Best for last. Isn't that always the way it is? The quality young folks. You guys doing okay tonight? No? Tired? School? Stress? I know, it's hard.
Yeah, we could do class here.
You can do class here? You guys, all right, 7th grade guys. Talk to you a little bit later. Thanks, Brian, for running this stuff. Thanks, live streamer peoples. Hey, hey, hey.